in the series of crime in public housing. We're here to let you know that we're concerned. I have people here that are concerned for you and work for you. On my right, we have Marlene Marcos, who's the Staten Island rep for the governor. On my left, we have Ed Barry, who's the first vice president of PSA 1 Police Tenant Council and the second vice president of the South Beach Tenant Association. And on my far left, we have Captain Jack Lyons, who's been here through the series supporting me, of PSA 1 Brooklyn South. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jack, let's talk today about the wonderful things that have been happening and the concern. And I noticed here in the newspaper, housing cops arrest 17th in the North Sweep. What's going on with the guns? I want to know the type of guns we're finding in there and what's happening with the drugs that are related to it.
Well, I believe that the increase in guns, particularly on Staten Island, has to do with an increase in drugs. Drug dealers need protection against not only the police, they need protection against other drug dealers. They're making a lot of money. They spend a lot of money on very sophisticated weapons. Years ago, I've been a cop for almost 25 years. The gun of choice was a .32, it was a .38. Now everybody has a 9mm. And even the police are now going just to try and play catch-up with the drug dealers.
Marlene, what's the position and what you can let people know about the governor's position on his anti-crime bill and what he's doing?
The governor's major focus for this legislative season is gun control. He believes very strongly that there is no reason that a person has to have an assault weapon out there. Those guns are designed to kill as many people in the shortest amount of time as possible. Due to that belief, he has proposed legislation that would ban assault weapons. Of course, there are some conditions, such as if you are in a gun club and you're incorporated, or it is for marksmanship, you can use that. But you're talking about someone out in the woods who's shooting paper. His belief is that there is no reason that there should be assault weapons out there, because basically it's just the root of all evil. And I had a conversation with the Commissioner of Division of Criminal Justice, and he basically said that, and maybe Captain Lyons could talk about this, is that the police officers don't even have anything near what is out there as far as the enemy having more ammunition power and more resources to really do bad things in the community. So his position is that he wants to ban them. There are some other parts of legislation which would require that people get recertified every 3 years. You know, if you have to get recertified to drive a car, why can't you get recertified to own a gun? There is a belief among many groups that, you know, there is a right to bear arms in our Constitution. So he is concerned about balancing so that those legitimate gun owners will not have a problem. So we are taking those facts into consideration. But the major thing is the assault weapons.
Assault weapons. What we're concerned is, and the average citizen is concerned is, why do we need bazookas? I know, and I've seen 13, 14-year-olds with Uzis. I mean, this is, in my day, was called a Thompson machine gun, which I'm dating myself, all right? There's no reason for kids out there. Ed, can you give us a little bit about what's happening and why the tenants are working? A lot of people don't know that the tenants are out there every month. Tell us a little bit about the meetings you have once a month.
Yeah, before I start that, just on the subject of choice of guns, when I was a kid, I wore Converse sneakers, the great old Converse. Today, it's $125 Air Jordans. But it's prestige. The bigger my equipment, the more prestigious I get. The animal of choice now, forget about guns. If we were talking about a defensive weapon, the animal of choice is the pit bull. Would you believe where I live, there's a fellow walking around with 3 white pit bulls? Why? It's prestige. It's a matter of that show, that front. I'm a resident of South Beach houses, first and primarily, all right? The rest of any connection I have with any of the organizations is a matter of just becoming an involved person, sitting in on meetings and suddenly realizing that I have to take responsibility. I just can't sit there and listen. I can't just mouth off, open my mouth off, and it never stops. But the situation is that so you take a position on the thing and then you proceed from there. I've lived in South Beach houses for 23 years. Up until approximately 21 years ago, we never locked our front door on the 4th floor. The situation has changed in an innocuous place like the South Beach houses very recently. I have a background in housing because I was the prudential debit agent through Stapleton and an adjunct to the West Brighton houses from 1965 to 1976, and I serviced the people. I was a serviceman first, salesman second. All right, it's a matter of getting involved with people. About 5 years ago, there was an effort on the part of Captain Melillo and the satellite precinct to establish a Tenants Police Council. It took almost 5 years in the making. At that first meeting, I heard a woman from the Mariners, Markham Homes, all right, in West Brighton, speaking about the gunfire. This is a family person speaking about the gunfire, and there was an appeal in her voice. All right, that struck me. So we stayed with it, and we continued to attempt to develop amongst 10 developments the Tenants Police Council, and as was stated in the first taping, Othar Sproul, who's the president, we finally are operational at this point, and meeting to meeting, we've become very effective. Listening, gathering facts for we residents. We pierce through perceptions, and we're getting down to the world of reality. That's what we're doing first off now. We're at a stage where we're going to give recommendations to police, to those elected officials, possibly to the governor. When $500 million comes down from Albany to New York City for community policing, and it was declared a bust, a disaster, where'd the $500 million go? All right, it's just, we'll give you a background about where we're coming and developing as council bodies and trying to awaken those people that live inside the houses and the extended community.
Let's discuss a little bit. What about drugs? What about drugs that are coming into this community? Where are they coming from? Are we aware of where they're coming from? Is there any legislation that we can propose or we can suggest through these organizations to cut them off at the pass?
Well, the drugs we have on Staten Island, our intelligence tells us that it's coming from other areas, usually Manhattan, upper Washington Heights. It comes down to Staten Island, it's cut on Staten Island, and it's distributed from here. We haven't identified any manufacturing of drugs here. The problems that we deal with is not having enough community support for the police. The idea that the police are responsible for the crime on Staten Island is only a half-truth. Everybody is responsible for crime. We must get together as a community. The police can do only so much. I believe what Commissioner Bratton and Mayor Giuliani have said about attacking street-level narcotics is going in the right direction. We have to get the police in the street, and we can't have them out there as specialists. A cop is a cop. We can't have a cop that's standing out there, and since he's not in public morals, he can't arrest prostitutes. If he's not in narcotics, he can't arrest drug dealers. That's a lot of baloney. If you're a cop and you see something, you should be able to make an arrest for that crime.
Jack, that's a good point, okay? I want to go back and make sure, because I don't think the average John Q. public understands that your policeman standing out on the beat cannot go in and make a complete drug arrest by himself.
Okay, that has been policy within the New York City Police Department. The housing police have not ever had that policy. Our housing cops are generalists. They handle family disputes, they lock up prostitutes, they lock up drug dealers, they lock up people with guns. There's nothing to say that we deal in conditions on a post. If you have a post, you handle those conditions, whatever those conditions are. If it's a problem with heavy narcotics and you can't do it by yourself, they come, they let us know, and we give them assistance. We'll give them anti-crime units, we'll give them dark team units to work on the problem. We go from problem to problem. We don't have specialized
I don't
units.
want to put you on because we've discussed this issue again. I don't want to put you on the spot. But an average policeman, I'm not talking about housing police now, I'm talking about citywide. An average policeman cannot go up, directly make a bust by himself.
Well, the policy has been more specialized, that narcotics people should do narcotics, public morals should do prostitution, illegal drinking, and that. That policy is starting, they're going to do 360 on that. Commissioner Bratton and Mayor Giuliani's policy is to go back to the way it used to be, the way the housing police have been doing all along, and I believe that's the right way to go. I think that we're going back to being cops, not just social workers, where we're trained to handle family disputes, but we don't make arrests. To go back and start at a grassroots program where we start taking back the streets. And once we can start to take those streets back and we can make it safe for people to walk down the streets, those people now will have confidence in the police. They will come out and they will help us. They will be our eyes and ears. Then we can have a program where the police work in a partnership with the community. But if you're afraid to come out of your house, if you're afraid to walk down the street, how are you going to get involved and point out crime to the police? You'll be terrified, and they're not doing it. They're locking themselves in. So the police first must start in a grassroots approach to take the streets back, building by building, block by block. And when we have that under control, now the community will come out and they'll feel safe in participating, and it's not going to happen overnight because it didn't get into this position overnight. It took years to get to where we are now, and it's going to take some time for us to get out of it.
Marlene, is the governor aware, or will he be open and listen to the fact that people in the community are terrified, and people like Ed Barry are out there working maybe 3 or 4 nights a week? John Q. Public sometimes doesn't realize that public housing residents do work that heavy. They do. What is happening, especially my concern is about the black market area. No one's against the National Rifle Association, and I can understand going out there and wanting to enjoy the sport. But what is happening, the fact of this heavy-duty equipment that's out there?
There's several things going on. I was reading some statistics that 90% of the guns in New York State don't originate from New York State. So what happened several years ago is that the governor got together with Virginia, which is a high gun state, and I believe it was Florida, and they talked about an agreement where they would traffic the gun traffickers along the eastern seaboard and make sure that they are working together. The prosecutors, the computer systems are really hooking up to this. There's also there's 2 other programs. There's a program called GRIP, which is the Gun Retrieval Interdiction Program, which is being seen around different parts of the state, where it basically augments teams of prosecutors that can go after the gun traffickers and just get them through the system quicker. There's another program which I think is city originating from the city, and that's the amnesty program. Now, I don't know if Staten Island's going to get one, but in Brooklyn, and I believe it was the Bronx, they had periods where you could turn in your guns. Now, that's another possibility. So those are several different programs that the governor is focusing on because he is clearly aware that the gun problem is unbelievable. But I must say this. The legislation's out there, but it's not moving in the Senate as far as the assault the ban on the assault weapons. So it's pressure. It's community pressure, Grace.
That's what we're hearing. It's dumped back in our laps. First it's there, we take care of it. Now it's dumped back in the tenant association's laps or the people that are out there lobbying. What do you feel? What do you feel, Ed, that we could do?
We as tenants, we as community members, I'm not only a tenant of South Beach Houses, I am a community person of the 122 precinct. I'm part of Staten Island. I've lived here all my life, all right? It just happens that my immediate neighborhood is South Beach Houses. My immediate neighborhood is also South Beach, and it is Staten Island. And when I hear programs, you can devise programs at any table, implement them. Let me see them hit the actual execution. That's where the $500 million went. It did not go into community policing. We are the community, our police are the community specialists in the houses. It is not done, and is not wanted to be done by the other police departments. When they graduate the police academy without any training, it's up to Captain Lyons to train his men to interchange with the residents. He has no men to deal with. So a lot of times when 2 officers go on in, they're the authority figures, and before you know it, you're challenged by a whole building of people living external to the project that control that building. Difficult situation. There is no public morals squad on Staten Island. So the precincts say, because we attend the 120, 122, and 123 police council meetings, and I am part of the 122 community. The situation is there is no public morals. That means that a sergeant does not have the arrest power when he sees a crime being committed. He has full arrest powers. A patrolman has full arrest powers. But for some reason, he's restricted from correcting an occurrence or a crime or an incident because that's not what he does. High visibility was standing a cop in one position for 2 hours, all right, while a robbery was being committed by in Grant City in the middle of the afternoon, and a reporter formerly of the Staten Island Register had to apprehend the 2 young men. I don't understand that as a resident and as a community member. Public morals, it could be filled in. Innovate. Captain Lyons is innovating with his limited resources. What does the Staten Island Task Force do? It went down on Captain Anderson's request to the golf course in Lower Richmond and did a very effective job. At times, the task force could do work along Bay Street, could do work along Van Duzer, Tudgey, et cetera, and so forth, or Port Richmond, or wherever. We innovate on Staten Island. We have to be resourceful because we're going into secession. We have to be very resourceful.
Talking about secession, okay, my favorite subject, and we're going to do a whole series on that, is if we're going to really get our local act together and we finally have our own resources, which we're supposed to have, I'm not going to pin you by asking you what direction the governor is in, but the funding at this point and the support at this point, okay, is it still for secession, for the police, and for the support of coming through?
Does the governor support secession?
Yes.
At this point, he has, up until the beginning of this issue, has not taken a position on it. He's not taken a position on it. He believes that the process was laid out, and until it passes the legislature, he will not speak on it, which is no different than any other bill. You know, the process is it goes to the legislature. If it's passed, then it's his opportunity to say yes or no.
Okay. So then we go back again. This bill about crime, violence. This is an issue I want to bring up because people have called me here at the station. Certain school buses have had, and which we've all known for those of us on the island, children, and I call a 13, 14-year-old a child, this is not an adult male, had a gun, fixed the gun, and shot and killed someone. Not killed, no hurt. Now, a couple of weeks ago, children beating each other up on a bus. Violence is up. Complete violence is up. And that's my concern, is whether we are going to be ready here. Why aren't there laws in check? Yes, I understand people have to have their rights and their freedoms, but when old ladies are afraid to go out and go shopping, they're afraid to take their checks, they're afraid to go shopping or do anything else, and yet will not get on the bus. Okay, only I say this to you because maybe some of you don't take a bus at 3 o'clock. Are petrified to get on the bus at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Ed, have you seen where most of your tenants really basically needs, I don't want to name a street because that wouldn't be fair. You know what I'm talking about. They're really afraid to even come out at a meeting at night from that particular area. Some of them, you want to use Mariners Harbor, West Brighton, Henderson. They will not come out at 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Yes. Many of the meetings are police council meetings are held at South Beach, and we do locate in various of the other developments. Situation is that there are those leaders in the other developments that are even cautious about being known as trying to assist other families, because there is there is direct threats, all right? Let me make it personal. Where I live was very innocuous, all right? Mixed families, mixed cultures, mixed backgrounds. At one time, we had cops and firemen that lived with us, all right? At this particular point, there are a few young men operating businesses in the South Beach houses that are drawing bullets, one to the other. My wife ever walks in, first floor apartment. If that tenant ever has one put through her window, I've warned Captain Lyons about this situation as I counsel to him, but I'm a resident and I'm a consumer of his services and a consumer of the New York City Housing Department services. I'm not putting the blame on the governor. The money's down here. I want to see it work on the street. And the situation is, with these bullets, they're moving. Patrick Daly walked into a bullet between two opposing businessmen, and that's how they settled their operation. I heard a story last week that in a large, high-story development, that the 12th floor wars against the 20th floor. How do you do that? With weapons, with dogs, etc., and so forth. We, as family people, are caught in the middle of it. I can find that right at home in South Beach without telling you what I saw a few weeks ago. Finally, the lights shot out in the Markham homes, the holes in the dumpsters. And there are people that walk through there, very fine people that I meet with. This is a matter of trying to straighten out a perception that goes inside. This is allowed to happen, and I do see that as far as Mr. Giuliani is concerned, there's going to be a new program implemented around the houses to make sure the school children get home safely. But what does that imply about the houses? Let's straighten it out inside the houses, then we don't have to worry about the surrounding area.
And crime in public housing, okay, and that's what this title is there. We have the density, ladies and gentlemen. We have the density. We have the volume. So out of 500 units, I personally know there are over 750,000 people in public housing. 3.2 million across this nation. I know that. I know my figures, and I know what I'm talking to you about. There are people out there who are concerned, and they work very hard. But if you're going to say every one of those 3.2 million people are bad or on drugs, you're wrong. They are a minute piece. They use us. When they want to do something wrong, they run into the developments. If they do something on a bus, they run into the developments because it is dense. There's no way. The foot patrolmen, I'm hoping we'll get back, which I know we're in that direction. You say the governor has new programs. You say we're implementing new programs. But meantime, the people are out there walking, taking their children, and this is dangerous. And I'm telling you that at the start of this series and the ending of this series, the tenant is not going to take it anymore. It has made an alliance with the community. So we're not out there anymore. I happen to be in a personal shootout, and I mentioned it the first part of the series. Crime is out there. If you think you're safe and you're warm in a nice little area, it doesn't come to you and affect you. It does. You could be driving in a car like I was, and in the middle of a crossfire between two drug lords in Brooklyn, they did not care that the car in front of me had babies in it. Babies. They were tiny babies, and the first one jumped on the hood of my car, and the second one jumped on the back of that car, and there were babies back there. Do you think they really care? They did not have a 38. Ladies and gentlemen, a 38 gun is it's a past. They're out there shooting magnums. I'm telling you that people in public housing care. If you're concerned and you want to help, write the governor. Write Marlene. Marlene, you want to tell them where they can write you?
Sure, you can write to me at the College of Staten Island, which is 2800 Victory Boulevard, Building 3A, Room 105C, and that's 10314.
If you're concerned and you want to come and write to us here, let me know. We're here at CTV, Suite 2, Staten Island Cable, number 1 Cableway, Staten Island Cable, 10303. Ed,
if I might, just as far as writing is concerned, very effective. Postcards are very effective to an elected official. Last August, Police Tenants Council wrote a letter to Chief Taylor, head of housing police in the city. That's how we got Captain Lyons. It was a position that the Brooklyn Command wanted to put a lieutenant. And the trouble with a lieutenant is inspectors don't talk to a lieutenant. We retired a lieutenant last year. We demanded a person of commanding rank, and we got Captain Lyons. He is housing police on Staten Island with limited resources. They say there's 61 men assigned to Staten Island. There are probably patrol officers of 29. We worked out the averages. It's 5.4 men a shift, and most often one car to cover 10 developments. Now, writing. There's a letter that went to Chief Forrest Taylor on January the 3rd, faxed in first. All right? The portion of this letter says, we are strongly and firmly asking for 60 graduates of the 300 housing personnel in the February 1994 graduating class, Police Academy of New York City. This is our right and our desire. It's a matter of justice, and we're prepared to pursue it through the offices of Greater New York. Now it appears we can do something with the governor, too. Now, situation is, many letters have gone in. We will work up through the levels, all right? But we will persist. As far as tenants are concerned now, we will persist and on an organized basis. And the situation is, political forums across Staten Island, possibly next November, are not going to be conducted the same way. There are going to be questions asked from those persons in housing and presented at those forums. There's not going to be a give and vote this next November.
I'd like to wrap up, okay, since this is the last of the series and you were kind enough to be with me through all three of them.
Well, let me just say in closing that you just made a very interesting point that because of the density in public housing, a lot of people come in there to commit crimes. That's true. We have been doing a lot of raids on Staten Island. We've been going out and we've been attacking the drug trade. And what we found that in one raid, we arrested over 14 people in the Stapleton area. Not one person that was arrested, the drug dealers or the buyers, lived in public housing. On Friday night, we just did another raid. We arrested about 22 people in the Stapleton and West Brighton areas. I think 3 of them were tenants from public housing. And we're talking about not only the buyers, we're talking about the dealers. In a recent arrest we made, a 13-year-old from the Bronx was arrested. And he told us that he goes to school during the day, and he gets off in the afternoon, takes the train to the ferry, to the bus, comes over to Markham houses. He gets paid $300 a week, $300 a week. He works a 3 to 11 shift from Monday through Saturday selling drugs.
That's it. That's it. It's a business, and we're caught in the bind of it. Marlene, please go back and tell the governor that we're not going to stand for it. No disrespect to him, but we're out there fighting, and the tenants are saying to you and the people in the community, we're together on this. We are definitely going to fight together. I want to thank Marlene Marcos, thank Ed Barry, and Jack Lyons.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.